My wife, Sarah, and I were living the American dream. 5 years of marriage under our belt, a baby on the way, and the keys to our very own slice of heaven. After scrimping and saving while bunking at my parents' place, we finally made it happen. Our first home together was a beaut, a charming 2-story single-family house surrounded by a sturdy privacy fence, nestled snugly in a gated community with round-the-clock security patrols. The whole process of buying the house went smoother than a fresh jar of peanut butter. No hiccups, no headaches, just pure excitement. I beat Sarah to the punch by moving in 2 weeks early. She was still living at my parents' house while waiting to be done with her 2-week notice at her job, so she could be home full-time and run her bakery business from home. With the second floor still empty, I camped out in the living room downstairs, eager to make the place feel like ours. The first couple of days were a whirlwind of unpacking and organizing, but on the third evening, things took a turn for the weird. As I was upstairs inspecting the windows, getting ready for my buddy John and his crew to swing by and install some treatments, I spotted something out of the corner of my eye. A security guard just chilling outside our fence, chowing down on what looked like a midnight snack. I figured I'd go out and offer him a sandwich as a thanks for keeping an eye on things. But when I stepped outside, there was nobody there, just a bunch of flowers, an unopened water bottle, and some untouched grub. It felt like I'd stumbled onto some kind of makeshift memorial, and I wasn't about to stick around to find out more. The next day, I woke up to the doorbell practically rattling off its hinges. Turns out I'd slept through my alarm, and there was John, bright and early, ready to get to work. After apologizing for my tardiness, we got down to business. It took the whole dang day, but those window treatments were finally up and looking sharp. As John was packing up, he mentioned something about the neighbor across the street. She'd given him the cold shoulder with a side of frostbite when he rang the doorbell earlier. I brushed it off, figuring she was just having a bad day. I was poking around upstairs after John had left, making sure everything was tip-top. I saw him again, that security guard, munching away like it was nobody's business. This time I hollered out to him, offering up some grub. But just like before, he vanished into thin air, leaving me scratching my head and wondering what the heck was going on in my new neighborhood. I couldn't shake the feeling that something just wasn't adding up. Seeing that security guard chowing down by that makeshift memorial had my hackles raised something fierce. I didn't want to worry Sarah any of this, so I decided to reach out to the real estate agent who'd sold us the house. Figured maybe he had some insight. Turns out he was as clueless as I was. But he knew a guy, Ed, who used to work for the development. Said he might have some dirt on what was going down. So I met up with Ed at the local coffee joint, and let me tell you, that man looked like he'd seen a ghost himself. Made me promise not to go blabbing about what he was about to spill, and you better believe I kept my lips zipped tight. Turns out, about 4 months back, this security guard was doing his rounds on a golf cart when he was up and keeled over right outside our place. Heart attack, they said. Next thing you know, neighbors start seeing his ghost flitting around like he's on patrol or something. The management decided to set up a little memorial for him, thinking it might put his spirit at ease or some such. Fast forward a bit, and Sarah finally moved in, all excited to set up shop with her baking business. The only thing was, she started yammering on about seeing that security guard hanging out by our place, looking like he could use a square meal. Now I knew better than to let her go traipsing off with a plate of cookies for some phantom, so I told her I'd handle it. Stepping outside with that bag of grub, I fully expected to find nothing but air. But when I turned back around to tell Sarah, my heart damn near stopped dead in my chest. She was standing there, eyes wide as saucers, staring right past me like she could see something I couldn't. That's when I knew. Whatever was going on in this neighborhood, it was getting mighty peculiar. But the weirdness didn't stop there. No, not by a long shot. Soon, as Sarah started getting friendly with the neighbor next door, Kim, things took a turn for the downright spooky. See, I'd always thought that house next door was empty, what with never seeing a light on at night. But turns out, someone was living there after all. And that's when the nightmares started. Night after night, I'd find myself staring down some shadowy figure, hands wrapped tight around my neck like a vice. Couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Felt like I was trapped in my own dang head. And just like that, our dream home was starting to feel more like a nightmare. Sarah and I were like two peas in a pod, hardly ever had a crossword between us. So when she hurled that TV remote control at me out of the blue while I was watching TV, I was caught completely off guard. I mean, who throws a remote control, right? I demanded an explanation, but she just stared at me like I'd sprouted a second head. It was like she was there one minute and gone the next, leaving me feeling all kinds of bewildered and hurt. I was quite mad that night, so we didn't speak until we went to bed. Things took a turn for the downright bizarre when I found myself trapped in that same nightmare, some shadowy figure squeezing the life out of me. Only when I woke up, it wasn't some figment of my imagination. It was Sarah, kneeling right on top of me with her hands wrapped around my neck. Now, I ain't one to panic, but let me tell you, that'll make the hairs on your neck stand on end. I managed to snap her out of it gently because she was pregnant. But try explaining that to your wife without sounding like a crazy person. Sarah had no idea how she would have a sleepwalk like that. The next day, I figured it was time I got to know our neighbor Kim a little better. I expressed my desire to meet our neighbor Kim with Sarah. Intrigued by the enigmatic figure next door, I eagerly awaited the opportunity to make her acquaintance. Sarah had already promised her some of her famous bread, so I grabbed a bag and headed next door. Only when I got there, the place was dark as midnight. I met with an eerie darkness that cloaked the premises in an unsettling silence. Returning to our home, I relayed the peculiar encounter to Sarah, who suggested leaving the bread on Kim's gate, a gesture she had made before. So I grabbed a flashlight and made my way back to the house next door, only to discover multiple bags of untouched bread hanging on the gate. Sarah's kind gestures had gone unnoticed. Turns out, Kim was about as elusive as a ghost herself. I didn't have the heart to tell Sarah, so I hung a bag of bread on the gate like she'd done before and called it a day. But the strangeness didn't end there. Night after night, I found myself tangled up in these nightmares, each one worse than the last. As the nights grew darker and the disturbances escalated, I had the same dream that I fought off two men who were trying to hurt me. The sound of screams pierced the fabric of my nightmare, jolting me awake to a horrifying realization. I had unknowingly harmed Sarah in my sleep, my hands wrapped around her neck in a grip of terror. The unsettling events that unfolded within the walls of our haunted house cast a shadow of unease over our once peaceful home. Mutual agreement with Sarah that something sinister lurked within our home prompted a decision to sleep apart, seeking solace in the relative safety of the living room to prevent further disturbances. One night, Sarah's concern for my well-being. She came downstairs and discovered a chilling scene of self-harm during my sleepwalking. The sight of my own bloodied face served as a stark reminder of the malevolent forces at play, driving us to seek refuge with my parents in a desperate bid to escape the haunted reality that plagued our lives. And let me tell you, those 2 weeks at my parents' house were like a breath of fresh air. No nightmares, no sleepwalking, just good old-fashioned shut-eye. But even with all that, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were giving up too soon. This house was supposed to be our dream home after all. So, against my better judgment, I decided to head back on my own and try to make things work. But let me tell you, what happened next was straight out of a horror movie. And trust me, you're going to want to hear all about it in part 2. So buckle up, where the dark truth behind our haunting ordeal will be revealed. Thank you to the viewers for joining us on this journey into the unknown. We hope these bone-chilling ghost encounters have left you with a sense of wonder and a newfound appreciation for the mysteries that lie beyond our understanding. Until next time, may you find solace in the realm of the living, and may the spirits of the departed remain at peace.